Welcome to Behind the Register, where we talk one-on-one with local business owners of downtown Fredericksburg, Virginia. Find out who's behind the register and what's in store for you. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode. Now we are called Behind the Register because we are going to focus on downtown businesses in downtown Fredericksburg and its business owners talking to other business owners. Before we have our first guest for this episode, Kemp of Dragonfly Yoga, located at 810 Caroline Street, I just wanted to let you all know that we are moving this format into a Zoom format, and we will be posting it on YouTube as well as iTunes, and hopefully you'll enjoy. We really want to have this podcast so you can get to know the owners behind the register, and you can see what they're doing during post-COVID times, as well as what's upcoming for the holiday season and Small Business Saturdays. So we will wait until Anne gets here. This episode was brought to you by Skin+Touch Therapy Spa. We're a boutique spa located in downtown Fredericksburg and Culpeper, Virginia. We offer massage, skincare, and natural nail services. Schedule online or purchase a gift certificate for someone to enjoy. Spa Local. Hi, Anne. How are you? Thanks for being one of our first guests, too, as well, for Behind the Register.
Thank you.
So let's start talking because you run Dragonfly Yoga, and I'm sure people are just curious because it is an industry that has changed dramatically because of COVID. It's been affected a lot. So why don't we start there? Can you tell us like what happened during COVID and just the adjustments that you had to make just to reopen and to start doing yoga again?
Yeah, so some major adjustments, obviously, right at the start or at the end of March, figuring that, well, we had to switch everything to virtual quickly. And I am really not tech savvy at all. I didn't know anything about Zoom. I don't know anything about microphones or webcams or how to do anything. There's actually a really funny little clip that we have on our save like Insta story about Alana and I trying to figure out how to operate things and just even work with a selfie stick. And we were just like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know. What does this button do? I don't know. And we're recording all this and we're finding out it's taking our picture this whole time as we're like pressing this button. We're like, what's this button do? We're both like, I don't know. And it's like, oh, it takes a picture. So we were really like not equipped to move into the virtual world. And obviously it was a quick learning curve. And we were pretty pleased to be up and running in about 2 weeks. We had everything going. We had our classes all virtual. Of course, there was a few hiccups. Some days, the video wasn't working or the microphones weren't working. And then we all had to have a new teaching style. We're teaching in front of a camera. We're all having to do everything. And if you've ever tried to talk while teaching a full class and doing all the movements, it's not easy. You have to learn.
Right, there's no more walking around, there's no adjusting.
Yeah, and we can't see the students. So there was nobody else there. There's no energy to kind of feed off of in the room. And you're trying to connect to a computer screen that you can't see your students half the time. So, I mean, there was a lot of adjustments right there in the beginning. And, now as we've moved into, reopening the studio, there were a lot of factors there, safety being key. That was the most important aspect, was making sure everybody felt as safe as we could provide for them, as safe as we could make it, not only for the students, but for the instructors as well. So, obviously having to go by the guidelines that the state has set up for us, and implement our own additional measures. for safety too. So, mhm.
So tell us now, when did you open up, and what, I see that you're doing multiple formats to just meet people where they're at. So tell us about those.
So we opened, I guess it was, I'd have to go back and look, it's kind of all, it's all kind of blended in together. It was either the end of May or early June. We were allowed to open a little earlier, but we kind of held off. We wanted to make sure that we had everything ready to go. So we waited a couple extra weeks before we opened the physical space. And then we only opened one space. So we were, moving from having 2 open studios to 1 studio, and still trying to offer hot classes, which is completely different in our big space. So that was a big switch. So yeah, we're offering hot classes, we're offering unheated classes, and in person, and still almost every class is still offered virtually too. So for people who want to, still participate but are not ready to.
So it's kind of like a hybrid model where someone can watch, but now the teacher does have a few students in the room. And it's like 10 feet apart, I think they call.
Yes, it's 10 feet apart is what the state is mandating for us. So that's a big distance. Other places it's 6, but for fitness classes, and we fall under that umbrella, it's said to be 10 feet apart. But you don't have to wear your mask.
How many people are in the classroom normally that you get?
So we have spaces set up for 9. We could actually fit a few more people in there, but they would interfere with the camera view of the instructor.
Okay.
So we want to still have, our virtual students have a clear view of the instructor. Even though we could fit a few more people in the studio, that would then interfere, and then their experience wouldn't be quite the same either. So.
Do you find that the teachers are liking the hybrid model, because now they are getting some feedback within their teaching that they can see if the class is responding, and then they can infer, like the person watching, that they're kind of doing something similar to who's in front of them?
It definitely helps having students back in the classroom. I mean, because you can see, you can get the energy, and then you can also see how the pacing is going, and maybe see where a little verbal correction needs to come into play. So all of us we've all really improved on verbal instruction. Because we have to be able to give everything very clear to the virtual students on what we're doing. And maybe even like the students way in the back of the class who can't quite see us because they're, 30 feet away from us.
That's true, actually.
And we're not walking around because we're trying to stay in front of the camera. So, and we're not walking around either doing any physical adjustments like we used to. And we're also trying to respect their space and not get too close.
Did you have plans to go virtual at some point, and then when COVID hit, it just moved that timeline up, or was that not any thought of doing
that wasn't even really in the scope of where I was looking to grow or how I was. But now it's like, we figured that out, and that's something that we'll definitely continue to keep offering.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's changed everything now. Even for us with online shopping, that was something down the road, and now it's just, I think, part of business now going forward. Now that you have it, you're not gonna not do it as well.
Right. It's something we'll continue to offer. So, I mean, that's a positive. That's an area that I never had dreamed of moving into. And obviously, once we're able to have more than 9 or 10 students in our space, the virtual will look a little bit different. I mean, we can't, the instructor will not always be standing on their mat. There will come a time where we're able to move around and assist people more. So it will definitely look a little bit different, but we'll still be able to come into your home.
I think it's interesting because there was, you know, in the industry, places, studios that were doing virtual,
Oh
but it
yeah.
was limited to, you know, these bigger studios, bigger names,
Hmm.
you know, or there was online, it was definitely moving there, right? But there was just a very few players there, right? Bigger
Right.
players. But now now I think a lot of studios have that option, which I
Hmm.
think is great because you have that connection with the community. The community knows these teachers, and
Exactly.
now it's more accessible because the technology, anybody can have that technology, right?
Mhm.
And so I think it's gone into this kind of like micro level where it's also even that playing field for yoga studios to kind of do that format. Whereas before, I think yoga studios were just doing in-person classes, and then there were these big major companies that were doing, you know, the online thing. And now I
Right.
think it's merged and crossed, you know.
Right. And you know, that's the feedback that we've gotten. You know, I've taken my share of online classes throughout the years. And being able to take an online class, attend one with, um, you know, your local teacher is fantastic. I mean, you're still feeling very connected, and you'll see people, you know, people that you know walk in front of the camera in a live class, and like, oh hey, there's, you know, so and so, and there's so and so, and you're still there. It's more personal, and it continues to have that connection.
And I think what's nice too is because for those teachers, you know, you're not limited to just the local community, or like, you know, you've traveled abroad as well as, you know, teachers. Everybody has a different place where they've been, but they have a following that are not just local. And now that following can access them in this greater way that was never possible before.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I have had people join into the class, you know, friends from Germany and friends from England, and so friends in Jordan. So that's really cool that they can, you know, join in still.
I think that is awesome, and like probably would not have happened, you know, if you weren't pushed to go into.
Yeah, unless we were like weren't forced to do it.
Yeah. So you're also doing classes outdoors, correct? Too, like.
We've stopped that, so that those ended at the end of September. You know,
Okay.
there was definitely some cold mornings. And there's been some, you know, a little, it got a little wet, and so we've moved all of our classes now back indoors. But you know, that's something that people really enjoy too. So as the weather changes again come spring, I see us having that offering again.
It's funny because when I taught, you know, a long time ago,
Mhm.
used to teach yoga for those who don't know, but when I taught outside, it's so different than an indoor setting because you're more connected with nature, you know, because of how the wind blows or what you're smelling. And it,
Right.
it changes the pace of a class because I think when you're indoors, it's just like blank canvas, right? Everything's kind of controlled, like, you know, but when you're outdoors, you're, you know, susceptible to everything, but that changes the pace and it also adds more of a dimension to a class, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely. You know, there are definitely people who loved the outdoor classes. There are definitely teachers that love to teach the outdoor classes. And then there's the opposite who were like, I don't want anything to do with outdoor classes. I don't want to take any outdoor classes. So I think there's a side for each of that one.
Tell us about like just what are you finding with your yoga students? Do you find that you're getting more? Do you find that I think there's a lot more stress? I would even say like a low level trauma. Do you find people seeking out yoga now because of that, or you know what patterns have changed for you now? Are you finding new people coming to yoga?
We're actually starting to see more new people coming again. So you know, our members and regular students have been fantastic. They've been so supportive throughout these whole 6 7 months now. So that has been fabulous. And now we're starting to see new interest, people who maybe have come to the studio a few times in the past, you know, last year, maybe earlier, you know, just after the first of the year, are starting to come back now and are showing interest. So it's fluctuating. Some days we have a lot of new students and some days we don't. But I definitely think people are realizing the benefits of the whole practice, and not only just the benefits, but how it works so much internally with you.
Are you finding that since people are home more, that like maybe day classes are more popular than weekends or evenings? Have you found a shift in schedule because now people may be working from home? Do you notice any of that?
Yeah, when we were in lockdown, obviously the morning classes were really, really popular because everybody was home, and that we found that the evening classes were not as popular as they used to be because everybody was home. They got everything done early, and then at night they were like done. So now we're seeing that shift again. Because people are, more back to work. The morning classes are not as crowded as the evening classes, or the very early morning classes are more crowded than like the later morning classes. The evening classes are more crowded now, that people have started going back to work and back to school. So we have seen a shift back to what it was kind of like a normal fall.
Yeah, so you're finding that people are kind of going back into their regular time.
Yeah, to their normal routine, normal schedule, because I think their life has kind of gotten a little more, I don't want to say balanced, but they're a normalcy to it again.
Sure. So are you doing hot yoga? Because that's usually kind of what people like when it starts to get a chill.
It starts to get cold.
I want hot yoga.
Yeah.
Is it coming back, and has things changed with that? Are you offering more classes or?
Yeah, so we're just getting ready to reopen the hot studio. The hot studio's been closed this whole time. We selected a few days to heat up the main space and keep it heated all day by using the hot studio. It wasn't as warm as our hot studio normally is, but I think next Wednesday is our first like official hot studio class.
I'm sure a lot of people will really like that.
Yeah, they do really like it, and they really like the more intense heat that our hot studio can bring. So that obviously has changed a lot too. We got a new air purification system for just in the hot studio. It's because of distancing, we can't have many people in that space. So it's going to be a much, it's like a semi-private space now. Yeah, and the instructor doesn't have to, it'll be all verbal instruction because the instructor doesn't have the space in there to do the whole class. They don't need to because it's not a virtual class in the hot room. There'll be a different experience again for the instructor.
Well, I'm sure they're all adapting, right?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, it's been a great growth experience. I mean, when do you grow? Your growth happens when you're pushed outside your comfort zone. And that's happened for all of us. We've all been forced outside of the comfort zone. And so, yeah, we've all grown in ways that we never had it maybe anticipated or planned on. So, there's the positives. Positives are happening.
Do you feel like because you've had a yoga foundation that it's kind of helped guide you through all of this? Or do you feel like you're just a normal person too, and you're just feeling the feels kind of?
At first, it was like I just wanted to put the covers over my head and not get out of bed until it was all over. just let it be done. But having this practice and for so many years, and just really even taking more time now for self-study and looking more internal of how it's affected me, how it's changed and helped me grow. There is a blessing there for sure.
Talk about a little bit about the history with Dragonfly Yoga, your yoga practice, and then you purchased the studio. So do you feel like now Dragonfly, this is like the third version of it? I mean, you've done a lot of improvements to it, but I mean, this was like, I'm sure like a, you know, not a 180 from what it originally is, but it's definitely grown tremendously, right? So
Mhm.
give the viewers a little bit of, you know, something about your yoga journey and then how you acquired Dragonfly. Give a little background to it.
Gosh, I took my first yoga class in 2002, and you know, the just after the first class, I was like, wow, this is life changing physically. I didn't really tap in or get the what the internal side of it was, and because I'm an extremely slow learner, it takes me a long time to learn these things, but I think that's good. It really like sinks in, you know.
It always, that's the beauty of yoga, is that it starts with this physical, right? And then as you get more comfort within that, as you're learning more of your body, you get more of this deeper understanding, and then it gets into the emotion and the mental and the philosophy. So and then it just kind of hits you, right?
Yeah.
Because first you think, oh, I'm just doing the physical and I
Mm-hmm.
still feel great. But once you've gone through that layer, and then
Right.
you go a little deeper, you find this really profound experience of really what yoga can really do. You know, I feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't think you're the only one about that.
It's a lifelong process. I mean, and you continue to learn, and you know, however long I've been practicing, I'm still learning and growing after every experience, and there's some teaching there somewhere that I can always find. And you know, I never thought that I would own a yoga studio until I lived in Germany, and you know, just how all of these things transpired. I mean, you know, we were supposed to be in Germany for an extra year, and had we been there, I wouldn't own Dragonfly, because the way the transition happened with the previous owner Kit and her departure to Germany, it wouldn't have transpired had, you know, that
The timing wouldn't
the
have
timing, right? Exactly. So it just kind of all, it was like the universe intervened and said, this is what's supposed to happen, this is how it's supposed to happen. You know, I wish the universe had given me a little more clue on that there would have been a pandemic coming up, so I could have been a little more prepared, because who knew that was going to happen?
Nobody did.
Nobody did. How does a brand new business owner, you know, figure that out? And you know, my whole reasoning was, I was so inspired by the studio I attended in Germany. Was a German-owned studio, and everything was taught in German. And you know, yoga it's a universal language. So I went in there and I could follow along, and fairly well, without having much knowledge of the language. And of course, during my time practicing there, I got much better at understanding everything in German. But the environment that my teacher Helena had created was just something. It was so meaningful and so powerful. And when it all transpired with being able to purchase Dragonfly, it's like, that's what I wanted to create, was this same community that I had there. And you know, that is something that we've worked the last 2.5 years now in creating. And it's just been fantastic and wonderful, the connections that we have, and seeing that transpire, that kind of vision and goal of what I wanted to create happen. And
Well, I mean,
yeah.
there's a testament to that, because you've definitely built a community and a following, because, you know, during COVID, those people were there to
Mhm.
support you, you know, and those were the relationships that you've had. So, you know, kudos to you. And I think you're achieving that vision there.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, well, it, you know, this here, what we're doing is the most uncomfortable thing for me. I am not I'm not one to like I don't like to put my face out there. I mean, if you look at our Instagram, you look at all our social media, it's not me, it's everybody else. I like to highlight, all the other instructors, because it's not just me. It's what everybody else brings, and the community that they bring, and the passion that they have. And this being in front of the camera is not what I enjoy at all.
I think that too, because I mean, I'm a little bit of a ham, of course. I don't mind being in front of the camera, but I definitely do like to highlight the team, and I like, I have great loyal clients as well too.
Mhm.
But I think in this time, we do as owners have to step forward a little bit and
Yeah.
kind of do what's needed and kind of speak for the company a little bit. And the brand. And I think people are just curious about the experience, why I wanted to do this a little bit too was just because I think people walk by, a lot of businesses, and instead of going in, they're shy, right?
Mhm.
And they always go, oh, I wonder how they're doing. Or, you hear about yoga classes, but how are they, what changed for COVID?
Right.
So I thought we really need to get this message out there, a little bit. And so people won't be curious, won't be shy. People will say, oh, I saw her and I want to go in and say hi. Or I've always been thinking about yoga and I feel safe and comfortable and I can come to this yoga class, or I could do it virtually. And the I didn't know, isn't there, because we're kind of getting that messaged out a little bit. And that's why it inspires me to do this. Which is why I'm like, okay, well, we'll just do it. And I think the fun thing about COVID was it just pushed everyone to do something that they didn't normally do. So if you didn't want to be in front of the camera, you are in front of the camera now.
Exactly. And that's, one reason I did reach out to you. It was like, okay, this is not something I would normally do, but it's good. Again, it's pushing me outside of my comfort zone, and helping me grow in a way that maybe I wouldn't have done without.
You were one of the first to say, hey, I hear you're doing
you know what I'll do? Well, it was it. I was just gonna like take that leap and that jump of like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
Well, we've known each other, so I think it just easily flows our conversation too.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit of what's coming up. Are you doing anything for Small Business Saturdays? Anything to look forward to for holiday for people who are watching?
So, our biggest thing is we are reopening our hot studio. So our class schedule is going to be expanding once again. So we'll have a lot more offerings within the studio to take classes. And of course, we still have our virtual offering. The holidays are going to be definitely it's going to be a bit different for us, because during the holidays, I often, did a lot of, for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, donation-based classes, because this is like when we would work towards giving back to the food bank, or finding someplace where we wanted to donate funds for our Christmas Eve classes and our Thanksgiving Day classes and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day classes. And that's just, I'm not really sure how we will accomplish that, because it was all about a bunch of people coming in, having a packed out studio with 40 or 45 people in there. And that's just not, that's not something we can do right now. So, brainstorming some ideas of maybe, can we do like a huge virtual thing and donation based that way of popping in and continuing to have that offering, because that's really important, is our community give back.
I mean, I definitely think if you do virtuals and it's still donation based, you're not limited to 40 people. You could have 100 people online following and supporting that charity that you guys are giving back to.
Right.
So that's definitely a great positive, do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
We won't be limited that way.
I know the world is open now. It's more, I mean, even though we're not so connected, we still are very connected,
Right. It's just in a different way. So.
That's awesome. So, and then Small Business Saturdays, do you have any specials or anything coming up with that?
Nothing that I can put out yet.
Tell the viewers how they can access online yoga if they wanted to. Like, how does that work? Is it a monthly fee, unlimited? And tell them like your website that they can go to.
Yeah, so everything's on our website, Dragonfly Yoga Fred. We've tried to make it as simple and as clear as possible. Everything's done through Zoom for the virtual classes. We have different types of packages that you can purchase if you just want virtual, if you want the option of having, you know, an in-studio option or a virtual option, and our on-demand content. There's different packages for that. We try to make something for everyone. So, you know, if there's just a little bit, we have little options. If you want more, we have other options.
That's awesome because I mean, like you know, people may practice once a week or they may practice 3 or 4 times a week.
Exactly. So we tried to figure out something that will work for everyone.
Awesome. All right. Well, I love this, and I was curious myself too about just like the yoga world because I was from there, and so it's always like I want to know what people are up to, and I love seeing all the things that you've done so far, you know.
Thank you.
And I love seeing people on the street with yoga mats.
Oh yeah.
I feel like 10 years ago there wasn't that, you know, and so now I do see people coming in and out of their cars with their yoga mats. Coming out a little bit more, and I'm sure there's a lot more people at home doing yoga, which is
yeah, it's a great introduction for somebody who may be, you know, it can be really intimidating to walk into a yoga studio and not know what's expected and how things are supposed to go, and so there can be a lot of uncertainty for a new student, and so having that virtual option of like, well, I can still go and kind of see what it's about without, you know, having to physically walk through the door. So if they're maybe not sure what to expect, they can come in on a virtual class and see like, oh, okay, yeah, this is good. This is what
that's great because before that was never the option, you know. I also think it's great because you don't have to dress up now or do your hair or
just have your camera off.
Yeah,
we had a few surprises with the cameras being on a few times of like, oh, so, let's turn that camera off.
That's kind of fun. I mean, it's not like a two-way streaming. You're not really seeing them because they're just seeing you guys. You're not really like looking at their posture or anything, right?
Right. So, I mean, yeah, so, but at first, when we were first working it out, we had what we called a gatekeeper. So, you know, somebody would be streaming either from the studio or from their home. And then another person, you know, usually myself or Alana would be the gatekeeper. And so we're letting people into the classroom. We're making sure everything's working online. And if somebody has a problem, we try to troubleshoot it. And so we would kind of be watching what's going on. And we had a couple instances where some people had their cameras on and we were like, oh, people don't need to see that. Let's
other people in Zoom, yeah.
Other people in Zoom, or just, you know, not realizing that we can see you and what you're doing. So
that's funny, but it's probably all amongst friends. So
yeah.
It's like we could see your dog running across your mat going crazy.
Yeah, yep. So it was quite an experience.
All right, well, we'll end it there, and I thank you for your time.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, this was great. So we'll keep having more of these episodes, and we'll keep meeting more business owners of downtown Fredericksburg. Thank you, Ann Kemp of Dragonfly Yoga.
Thanks, Brian.
It was great catching up, and I'll see you on the street too.
I'll see you on the street, that's right. Or I'll see you in Skin+Touch.
Yes, you are there regularly.
Yes, I am.
You were there yesterday, I think, right?
I was there yesterday. I had a great pedicure from Tiffany. Wonderful job.
All right, well, we'll end it there. That was probably the perfect ending.
There you go. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Anne.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Behind the Register. I'm your host, Brian Lamb, and this episode was produced by Haley Harkins. Special thanks to Fredericksburg, Virginia Main Street for hosting our episodes. If you like what you've heard, support us, share, comment, and like us. We'll catch you next time on Behind the Register.